Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. RJ Horner here, back again, host of Open Up, our live talk show. Um, Voice of Men 360 is a non for profit organization founded in 2020 based in Toronto, Canada. Voice of Men 360 was born of seeing a tremendous need and helping to step up and provide services to support our men and boys in overcoming their life challenges. We're part of International Men's Day, and International Men's Day has now been serving for over 21 years and is represented in 90 countries around the world to join together to do various activities. International Men's Day follows six pillars, which represent the overall well being of men and boys, and we follow in those same footsteps here. So, why is Open Up so important? Because men are not willing to open up our hearts and share our matters with anyone. When we keep our challenges within ourselves, it can create undue health conditions and emotional challenges that we're trying to avoid. And that's why we want to create an open space to help our men and boys share their life journey and for others following in their footsteps. Um, there are no limitations with gender, age, nationality, or ethnic groups in sharing your life journey. All walks of life are invited to participate. Our goal is to make a positive impact in someone's life through this program. Open Up is 10 a.m. Sundays Eastern Time, where we bring out individuals to share their life experiences with you. Today, our speaker is Letroy Woods. He is a prominent speaker and is an experiential coach. In other words, he walks with you on the journey. He's a speaker, entrepreneur, a podcaster, influencer. He's joining us today from Utah. Thank you, Letroy, for joining us this morning.
Thank you guys for having me. Every day is an opportunity to allow the thing inside of us to express itself. So thank you guys for this opportunity today.
Absolutely. That's really why we do what we do here. Again, we share those life experiences that people go through, right? Everybody has them. So tell us a little bit more about yourself. Who is Letroy? Why does he do what he does?
That's a very interesting question because last night I was writing in my journal and asking myself that question because that was one of the very first questions that came to me during this journey was who am I? And it was one of my first awareness questions. And then it turned into what am I? There's something deep inside of, I believe, all of us that wants to come out. And that question changed for me because who actually really had a label on it. And it's the thing that I had been chasing my whole life without realizing it was the thing that I couldn't find because it was myself, my true self that I was looking for. And that wasn't a who, it wasn't a label. As a male, as a father, as a brother, as a worker, but it was really what is inside of me. And I believe this is what really transforms our lives is finding out what that is for each particular person.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you remind me of have you ever watched the movie City Slickers with Billy Crystal?
Hmm.
And in it, Jack Palance says the secret of life. He talks about the secret of life and how it's just one thing and how it's different for everybody. I think that's what we're talking about here. You know what? We all have something to find. We're all searching for something, and for each individual, it's a different thing. So, um, we're using these experiences, your life story, my life story, everybody else that we talk to, in order to empower others. But again, your journey is your own, right? That's I think what that's what that message is. So, what have you discovered in that questioning? You said you wrote in your journal yesterday. What have you discovered about Letroy?
There's this common theme that seems to show up. I believe we all have this pattern. Um, it really kind of reminds me of Dante's Inferno, kind of in the book, how to get to paradise, you have to actually go down. You have to go inward, inside, to get to this magical place. But I believe it's through facing ourselves. Most of my life, I was a people pleaser. I was looking for validation and permission to do the things I wanted to do. And for me, it was in a win-win situation because I was putting myself second. So what I began to find was that this journey in life was really just me and God at the end of the day. And to trust myself at that level, to trust my intuition, that that human beings actually can create at any level that they choose to. But it does take courage and to stay in your own lane and to move after the life that you will love. Um, this was revealed to me in a moment of suicide 5 years ago. And this is the real conversation, was I finally made a commitment to myself. And through that commitment, I began to free myself one day at a time.
Wow. And so what was that commitment? Tell us a little more.
The commitment was to choose myself first.
Mm.
Most days I was waking up and I was choosing other things before I was choosing myself. One, being good to myself. No matter what situation pops up, no matter what happens. And this was a conversation that began to unravel itself in different ways, where I began to realize it wasn't situational or circumstantial, but this was a conversation about my energy and where I was placing my attention and care onto. I was putting myself second, and I didn't realize subconsciously, by doing that, I was creating a situation where I was telling myself I was second. And I did that my entire almost teenage life and all of my adult life up until the age of 39. And it felt very foreign. It felt wrong almost at first to give to myself at that level, right? Because I got a spouse, I have children, feel like I have these other commitments to commit to first. But through committing to myself first, that's where all the magic began to happen in my life, even to this day, is to choose me first. And that's what I found, was I actually found myself and I freed myself from this prison that I had put myself in my entire life.
So I got two questions here for you now. First of all, can we make that transition? Can we start to think about ourselves first while still being true to those we have commitments to, partners, kids, employees, coworkers, that sort of thing? Can we still be true to them while taking care of ourselves or looking for ourselves first?
Absolutely. But this level of path, I believe everybody's not willing to walk down, right? Because it feels very irrational. It feels very backwards. We think our thermostat in life is actually happening outside, right? That when the outside temperature changes, then my life would change. But it's this internal regulator inside of us that life changes there first. Now, and most people aren't going to understand this when you begin to go down this path, right? You don't jump off the deep end. Oh, wow, he's having a midlife crisis right now, right? When you come back over here where everybody else is, we're all making the same decisions and doing the same thing, right? And for me, that wasn't the model that changed my life. The model that changed my life was trusting my intuition, trusting God. I call it God for me. Um, this is what changed my life, right? This is what I call this power that's inside of me. To trust that voice and to go after it as if my life depends on it, because that's what I learned 5 years ago. And that experience is my life does depend on it, my life, and to go after it one day at a time, one new step at a time.
So then my next question, and maybe you've already answered it a little bit. What was that transition like, changing from people pleasing to more self-oriented focus?
It felt very isolating, very alone in the beginning. It still
Mm.
does at times because it takes understanding, right? Because we don't know anything. That was something that was humbled with in the very beginning, is Troy, you don't know anything. You never will know anything, right? But you know what you were doing before didn't work, right? And that everybody isn't going to understand this. So to trust, right? And the only way to understand this is to have an experience. This is where the knowledge and the wisdom actually comes from, not the information and not from the doing, but it's even deeper than that, I believe, is the becoming. Am I willing to become the person, that I need to become in order to live the life that I desire for myself? Am I willing to go there? Because it feels very like almost walking blindly with yourself and knowing that what you're walking towards is already yours before you attain it. It's a different level. I feel that we've forgotten these things, RJ, right? It's not something that we have to learn or attain. It's already available inside of each human being who is willing to uncover it within themselves.
Absolutely. Look, as kids, young children, we have no limits, right? We have no boundaries we put on ourselves. If we want something, we ask for it, we seek it, we try to obtain it. But somewhere along the lines, we're taught that that's not right. You're not allowed to ask for these things. You're not allowed to want these things. So as we grow into adulthood, we forget that. Is there a way we can get that back?
It is, I believe, part of it is first we got to know what we desire, right? We need to, and it's different for every person. That's why every person, I believe, can have what they desire. Everybody doesn't want the same thing, but to know where you're going first is it's like this. I think this specificity and having a plan, um, building it brick by brick every day is very important. It's like getting in your car, driving. Say you want to go to Florida, and you drive to Florida, and Florida's a pretty big place. So if you don't have a pinpoint location for your latitude and longitude, you may end up somewhere you don't want to be. You may run out of gas and be lost somewhere, even though you're in the vicinity of where you want to go, but you're still where you don't want to be at. So first is just figuring out where you want to go with yourself. What do you desire for your life? Right? And then what are you willing to do? Because it's not going to show up the way that you think it's going to show up in your own mind and your own intellect. Right? This is a different level of understanding. This is an intellectual conversation here we're having. I believe this is more of a spiritual conversation. And this is what separates the people from the people who aren't living the lives that they want to live, is to go down this path. You free yourself.
Absolutely. And so I like what you said. And you said, what do you want? And then what are you willing to do to go and get it? Because I mean, I think all of us can have that, right? But we block ourselves. Maybe we decide that, you know what, I don't want to do this, or I don't have time to do that, or it just it's not. I don't. It doesn't fit with my life. We make justifications. Um, how do we get behind beyond that?
I think these are all little things, RJ, right? One is surrounding yourself around people who are building you up, who are moving into the spaces that you want to be in, committing to yourself every day. Right? There's a reason I believe that we're the only species on the planet that has the power of choice to choose something different for ourselves every day, to understand that what is in my mind is only a suggestion, that thoughts aren't things, they're not facts until we want them to be. Feelings and emotions, understanding this, especially as a male, I believe that we don't get taught as males often what these things called emotions are, but they're not facts either, right? They're only going to be facts when we decide to engage with them and make them a fact and to understand them, right? So I think all knowledge, RJ, is ultimately self knowledge, and allowing ourselves to move into these new experiences to find things out about ourselves, to understand. So when situations show up next in our life, not if they show up, but when they show up next, we have a better understanding of what's going on in this body that we live in.
Absolutely. And then you mentioned that you know what, we deal with this especially as males. So tell me, what kind of work have you done with our men and boys out there?
One of the first things I realized out of my experience and the way it was given to me is I don't need permission or validation from anyone to go do the thing that I want to do. So once I began to realize that, right, it was when the timing's right, then I'll go do this. Or when I have the right amount of money, or when my family feels comfortable, then I'll move into this space. When I get my degree, I can actually go out and do the thing that I want to do. And it's a decision first. It's a decision that happens first. And I begin to go out into the community and I began to let the thing that made me feel alive, showing people there's a different way to live. Showing them just, would it be okay if we just look at this a little different and you be able to see that there's possibilities, there's opportunities around us everywhere that we go, everywhere. Now, this is a great conversation, especially for where I live here in the US, because we have these freedoms that a lot of other countries actually don't have, but we don't exercise them. We actually exercise more of the things we don't want here than the things we do. So just going out and just creating one empowering conversation one day after another.
Mhm. And then we as men, look, we struggle first of all to be family men, to be a father, to be a uncle, to be a brother, to be involved. We struggle with that. And then we also have the internal struggles that we deal with on our own. Um, how can we be more open? How can we open ourselves up to these, to building this better life, to having that conversation, to growing in some way?
RJ, I believe this question, it's a good question, and I don't believe it's in the how. I think for me, the more empowering question is in the what. What can I do today that I have never done before? What am I willing to do? Right? Because I believe as I began to move down my own life, I used to ask this how question often. And I found that it was because I didn't believe. I was asking the how. How am I going to do this? Like, what's the next step? Instead of saying, what can I do? What am I willing to do right now? So, and not what you've already done, but what new thing am I willing to do to change the thing that I don't want? What new decision can I make to create a new reality for myself first? It's because it's me first, to choose myself first. And then you offer this to people. So I think once you know what it is you want, then asking yourself, what am I willing to do? Right. And this is where your life would just literally change right before your eyes, because you're going to take your mind to another space, right? Because this is really a conversation of not what I'm doing, but who you're becoming. This is a totally different conversation, right? My idea of what my life looked like was going to be when I retired at the age, what, mid 60s, early 70s, right? Then we'll pay the home off, go on the trips, do all the stuff. But the life I desire is here right now. That day may not ever show up. So, what can I do today? What am I willing to do today to plant a seed, right? To move towards the life I desire today? Because there is no perfect time for anything.
And I like the way you said that, because you know what, the thing we dream about, the days ahead, they may not show up. So living for today. Certainly, we have to work for the possibility of tomorrow. But what are you trying to achieve today? What can I do today? I love that. Thank you very much for that. So I know about what you're working on now. Tell us, people out there, what are you focusing on now and why?
For me, it is, I was given a vision 5 years ago. So this all happened with, we have a group called Internal Awakening. And so this was created because myself and my business partner both had these experiences where something turned on inside of us after we had our experiences. And I think everybody has something that happens in their life at some level, right? No matter what it is, to where their awareness begins to shift from one space to another. And then you begin to realize, what do I want? And am I going to be willing to go after it? Right. So for me now, this year, as I began to tell myself in January of 2022 that I'm going to commit to myself and self mastery at a higher level, right? That I am going to be on stages with people bringing this message alive. And so these days, what I end up doing a lot now is committing to things before I actually have them, right? Because I understand what's going on in my mind a lot more now, that I would often wait for the thing to show up before I fully commit it 100%.
Mhm.
So by committing, now it moves me into the space of making a decision at another level. This year, I will be on stages bringing this message to hundreds and thousands of people at a different level. And so I'll be doing this. I'm in the state of Utah. So I'll have a physical speaking engagement this month, to next month, to the month after that, online. Right. But it is trust in myself to move into these spaces, right? To go after the thing that I desire. And so it is to move exponentially into this, because anything's possible for our life, right? 5 years ago, if I would have never thought this possible, I would still be doing the same things that I was doing yesterday. So I tend to bring this message to people in high spaces at high levels, and to keep moving past and beyond that, with bringing this message that if you get better, your life can get better. And I'm doing that on stages now.
Mm. So, but can I ask you, isn't that dangerous? Like committing to something, not knowing what the future may bring, isn't that dangerous? Can that cause us, harm or, put us in a bad place?
If you believe it to be, then yes, right? I believe when you trust at that level of commitment, I believe there's a reward, a prize waiting for you on the other side, right? I don't think nothing bad can happen to us. I realized that through my own experience, that life is waiting for me, not the other way around, right? Life is waiting for me to show up. And what am I waiting for? What am I waiting for to go after the life I will love? Those things are available here. The scary thing, the difficult thing that I believe you're talking about, RJ, is to do the thing that you've already done, to do what you've already done before. It is hard to wake up and do the thing that you don't want to do every day, to go through the motions, to have the anxiety, the depression, the sadness, right? That I find that is very difficult to do every day. But to do the thing you desire in your heart, to go after it, that is the easy thing. So when I realize there's going to be pain and suffering, no matter what path I choose, to do the thing that I don't want to do, there's going to be some level of pain in that. Suffering, which is a choice all the time. I'd rather have some pain and suffering in my life for the things I do desire. And there's no negative connotation on pain and suffering, but it definitely is part of the process, because when you're growing through something, it's going to be a little painful.
Without a doubt. And so that's what I wanted to get at. You know what you talked a lot about it, the anxiety, the depression. These are the things that we're trying to relieve here with the show Open Up. It's really getting at people to talk about their struggles and the issues that they have to overcome. So you've been focusing on mental health for a while. Tell us a little bit about what we can do to walk out of that, to get past that. Is there things we can do for our own mental health?
That's a good question, RJ. And I think there is things we can do. I think there's some very foundational pieces that we can't ignore. I went to a conference about 4 years ago. At that conference, it was called Power for You, and there were some pretty influential people there. And the panel at the end were all kind of asked a question, but they gave some stats, and this is what was really interesting. Of all the highly successful people, we're not just talking millionaires, but billionaires also. And this has nothing to do with money, because I believe when we become that person, this resource called money, these other things of abundance, are a part of that, right? When you're bringing value at very high levels. But some of the things they said really stuck out. And one of those things is a good portion, it was a very high number, in the 80-90% range of people who have wealth at these levels. One of the things they all do is meditate. Now, why would you sit down in silence and do nothing? Why is that so important? Right. And this one tool alone has been one of the greatest factors from where I was to where I am to where I'm going, is to understand the nature of my mind. to understand what's going on in my thoughts, to observe them and to understand them, right? Not to control them, but to understand them, to understand what's going on in my emotions, this energy and movement. So I believe tools like meditation are highly important because on a chemical basis, behind the scenes, right, it begins to put the body in a state of where it performs at a very high level, right? Breathing, something as simple as breathing, chemically changes what's going on inside of you. Journaling, these simple things, right? The obvious answer can't be the answer, but it actually is. And all these things are free that I'm talking about, right? Sitting down with yourself and getting to know yourself, you can actually free yourself.
Mhm.
And one day at a time is how this is done.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Look, breathing, meditation, these are all great things. But I will tell you, even for myself, the one thing that changed my life was journaling. It was getting my thoughts that are in here that I'm struggling with down on paper. And the minute I did that, things started to improve and get better for me. So that one tool alone is invaluable, getting thoughts off your mind in some way. You've been a great guest so far. I do have a few announcements we have to run through, and then I have a couple more questions for you. Can we just stand by for that?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have several live shows here in Voice of Men 360. The first you just participated in is called Open Up, our live talk show on Sunday mornings, of course, which I am the host, takes place at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Then we have a program with our founder, our leader, Sivam Balatam, called Vili. Vili means I, and this is a Tamil language live talk show that takes place Sunday mornings, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. We also host a monthly webinar the first Saturday of every month at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, where we bring out the expertise of organizations to discuss a topic of interest to them, but also of interest to our community. We host a special show every month called The Unspoken Tears. This is the second Saturday of every month from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. The focus of this program is domestic violence against men, bullying, male sexual abuse, traumas, porn addiction, human trafficking. These tragic conversations happen here in Voice of Men 360. We also have a program called Authors Circle, where we bring out individuals, authors, of course, who have been contributing to the well being of men and boys through writing articles, media, and recognizing them and appreciating them for their efforts. This takes place the third Saturday of every month from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And then we turn all of our content into podcast episodes. So please look out for us on all of your favorite platforms: iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and more. And then we have some support groups here in our community. The first of which I am very proud of is a men's only peer support group. Open up peer support group. So please come and join us for that every 2 weeks, Tuesday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. The next one is this Tuesday, June 28th. Please register on Zoom and come and join us for that. You can find more information on our Facebook page or our group, or voiceofmen360.org. Our second peer support group is for our Indigenous community, Indigenous peer-to-peer support group that we call Pass the Talking Stick. It takes place the fourth Friday of every month from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. through Zoom. Again, please visit us to register and find more information on that. There are no limitations with gender, age, nationality, or ethnic groups. All walks of life are invited to participate in our programming. If you want to be a guest on any of our shows, or you're willing to be a part of our organization and help us, whether directly or indirectly, please reach out to us. We'd love to work with individuals, professionals, experts, community organizations, associations, corporations, government officials, businesses, not for profits, and more. You can reach us through our phone number 437 889 8329. Email us info@voiceofmen360.org, which makes our website www.voiceofmen360.org. You can find us on all of your favorite social media platforms: Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, Don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. And of course, visit our Facebook group, www.facebook.com/groups/Voice of Men 360. Please invite your friends to join us and like as well and be part of our valuable content. We want to reach out and help more people, so please continue your support. So that's our announcements for today. Letroy, you've been an amazing guest, but do have a couple more questions for you before you leave us today. It's really a wrap up of our conversation. It's your thoughts on how can we make a better future for our men and boys. So, how can our men and boys empower their own journey?
That's a great question because it's going to be different for everyone, I believe.
Mhm.
I like to follow this question with leadership. Being able to lead ourselves first is the only way that we can lead other people first. Right? Am I willing? Am I willing to lead myself through the things in my own life and my own self that I'm bringing my message with that make me uncomfortable? Am I willing to grow through this? Example it first, right? And then give it away. I spent most of my adult life thinking that I was a part of the solution, was actually part of the problem, right? It was the blind leading the blind because I thought I knew the answer to things without ever having the experience of it. Right. So I'm not really talking in terms of right or wrong here, but to lead ourselves first, then we can lead our families, we can lead other young men, right? We can begin to do this at another level in our communities when we've learned to lead ourselves, to be true to ourselves, to be good to ourselves every single day, regardless of what shows up and what has happened. That I always have a choice, right? I will never punish or diminish myself, right? So, to example the very thing that we are bringing to other people, because our message gets better when we get better, right? Things around us get better when we get better first. And there's no other way to do it, right? Because behind the scenes, what this is your energy's in a different space. You know, when you're around people who are in this different energy, and no matter when you're around them at any level, you could feel something's different. You could feel you're attracted to them like a moth to a flame, right? So just getting your energy in the right spot, because we can win as men when our energy is low as well as when it's high, right? You learn that winning is something that we do all the time, not just when we feel good, but also when we don't feel good. We can learn to win in situations in our life in all aspects, right? And this is how we understand ourselves, is through our mind and through our hearts, and then to trust our spirit as it is waiting for us to choose ourselves to grow through this, right? And we show other men how to do this one day at a time, right? How to figure out what's going on inside this body, because emotions aren't who we are. Our thoughts aren't who we are. We get to choose that one day at a time, right? But this is a very difficult conversation we're talking about here, because you're going to move into spaces you've never been into. You're going to feel very uncomfortable often, right? But it is worth it. And then to show young men, especially the children, especially the not teenagers, but even younger than that, to have these real conversations with real people, with real men every day, right? That you have a choice. You could either choose yourself or you could choose something else. But if we don't choose ourselves first, right, that is not the model to win in life.
Yeah, I got it. I was on mute. Thank you. um, thank you for that, Letroy. I love what you're saying. One of the things I value is reading and taking in that information. One book that helped me change my life in this manner is much the same thing. John Maxwell has a two-part book called "Develop the Leader Within You," and then develop the leader in others. So, and it's much the same thing. Focus on you first. Become you centered, right? Develop yourself, and then you'll be able to serve others and help them on their journey. So I love that. Thank you very much. And you know what? If they can't, some people don't read. Don't worry about that. You can still take the information in on Audible. You can read it in an audio book, or you can watch it on YouTube. I love personally, I love that you send out. Again, I'm associated with you. I'm in your community. You send out motivational, empowering videos every day on something that can help us in some area of our lives. So you believe in that much the same as I do, right?
I am. I'm willing to stir that pot, RJ. Stir the pot. Right? What would I wake up and choose the same thing that I've already done the day before, and the day before that, and the day before that? Right? I don't need people's permission to go be the man I want to be, to live the life I want to live. I don't need no one's permission to do that. Right? It's called. It's a very difficult, different conversation. It's a very different conversation, right? To stay on the path and this commitment with yourself, right? When you said reading, right? The word even reading, libre, when you begin to understand the root of these words, the root of that word also from library, different words that are associated with the same thing means to free. There's that word free in there. So, right, without reading, are we able to free ourselves? Because that's where the truth comes from, right? You won't be able to read the Bible. There's many very different things you wouldn't be able to read to free yourself, right? There are certain words that are put together in certain ways and certain texts that can offer the truth to you. So reading is a very important thing for that.
Mhm. Absolutely. So there's a way that our men and boys can start to empower their lives. Thank you. So, what can we do as a society to help them on that journey?
Is to take the courage to go out and do it. Right. So I commit to things before I actually attain them these days, in my business, in my personal life. Right. That I know, I understand the nature of my mind. Right. Is here to keep me safe. So I understand that if I don't make that higher level decision, this is, I'm taking this back to just the energy of the decision itself. If I don't choose to make this higher level commitment, my mind is going to say, "Oh, just wait till tomorrow, or wait till like the timing's right, or you have the money, or when the family's on board." Right? But to make that higher level commitment and decision day after day. So I'll often sign up for a speech that I may have no idea what I'm doing. I might sell a product that I may have not actually made yet, because I believe in this different level of decision making. There's stuff in there because you're having a new experience. You figure it out on the way, right? You figure it out on the way, this life you will love. And you show other men that they can actually do the same thing too.
So you're saying lead by example, I think is what you're suggesting.
Yeah, I think this conversation is a very simple one, RJ, right? Commit to yourself. That is the answer. It's in this love. This is the love conversation. If you're willing to love yourself at the level that we're talking about here, there is a freedom in that. And there's no words for it. We articulate and try our best to put words on it, but that is a feeling that you attain, because that's what we're looking for. That's why we buy what we buy. This is why we associate who we associate with. Is we're looking for the validation. We're looking for, hey, look at me, to feel good about ourselves, to find purpose in why we're here. Right. So this is the real conversation, I believe, is the commitment to ourself. And that's going to be very uncomfortable because other people are going to have ideas of what your life should look like and what they want you to do instead of what you want to do.
So I think for a society, would it be best for us to be open to allow people to experience what they're going to experience?
Absolutely. Right. We don't have control over anybody else. We have suggestion, influence at best. Right. But to stay in our own lane, right. To keep building yourself up, right. To not put yourself second. You know what it's like when you put yourself second, you begin to build up that resentment and all these other feelings, to where now you're in a lower space where you're not making very good decisions because you don't feel good about yourself. So it is to trust yourself, your intuition, right? To put your eggs, to bet on yourself first before you bet on other people. This takes practice, RJ. As men, as women, right? We're taught to take care of other people first, put others first, right? And so we've lived this way our entire lives. So to break that pattern isn't going to happen overnight, but to choose to make that commitment one day at a time, to free yourself. And once you realize what you are, not who you are, your life would transform almost overnight because you'll realize what's inside of you. It's a game changer once you realize what is inside of you, right? And you'll begin to go after it. You'll begin to go after it very aggressively because you understand what this human experience is.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. You've been an amazing guest through a tremendous value for people out there. So how can people connect with you?
You could go to my website, letroywoods.com. It's LETROYWOODS. Also have a Facebook group called Internal Awakening, where you could go, where we create a safe space for people to come to where they can feel safe to have these kind of conversations without the judgment or the criticism. Those are my two main spots right now, and everything else from those spaces, you'll find linked to the other things that I'm actually doing in the community.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you very much. That's Letroy Woods joining us on Open Up today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. Again, we are Open Up, where we invite people out to share their life experience and their story with you in the effort of empowering our men and boys on their own journey. So, thank you for joining me today. I'm your host, RJ Horner, asking you to open up.